Right. Good morning to everybody. Pleasant morning. Hearty congratulations again. Come back for online webinar classes of literature final year and geology. Today we are going to discussing about a new topic that is before the new topic we are going. So yesterday we already discussed respiratory pigments and day after yesterday respiratory mechanism, respiratory system of man, and respiratory organs, respiratory introduction. We already completed these topics. Today we are going to discussing about a very interesting topic that is very interesting topic. Okay, that is none other than very interesting topic. Will asking entrance level or your semester level or US that is CSR net level or group level. Will asking from both this topic. That topic is called transport of gases. Transport of gases. What is transport of gases? Any idea? What is transport of gases? Any person, any idea? Transport of gases. Okay.
Transport, it refers to the transport of oxygen from lungs to the cell and the releasing of carbon dioxide from cell to the lungs.
Very good, very good. Excellent answer, Krishna. I think that's the Krishna students of legendary students. Right. Thank you very much. And transport of gases, I would like to give review. First, environmental air. The environmental air which is enters into lungs by the expiration process. First, environmental air which is enters into lungs through the by the inspiration. Third, oxygen diffused into blood through the blood capillaries. Okay, so these blood, what happened to blood capillaries? These blood to carry the oxygen, to send to cell, a tissue. Okay, and in the tissue and cell, okay, that reach to the oxygen to be diffused to cell. Okay, the cell utilize the oxygen and consumption of oxygen to produces ATP energy. Then it produces carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide diffused out from cell to bloodstream. The blood to carry the carbon dioxide and to send to lungs. Lungs remove the carbon dioxide to outside by the expiration process. This is the process is called transport of gases. This is a process of called what ma? Transport of gases. So what now we are discussing about the transport of gases. First what ma? Environment air which is enters into lungs. Okay, that is respiratory organ. In the lungs, what happens? This oxygen, okay, through the capillaries, blood capillaries of alveoli, these oxygen enters into capillaries. From capillaries to blood, capillaries to diffused into from capillaries to blood. So that is oxygen enters into blood. Okay, these blood to send to the oxygen to tissue. Tissue means cells. Okay, which to cell. Okay, these oxygen enters into diffuse into cell. Okay, diffuse into cell. Okay, then these tissues utilize the oxygen to production of ATP energy. Then these cells, after metabolic activity, carbon dioxide produces by the oxidation process. In the cell, oxidation process release huge amount of the carbon dioxide. These oxidation process, the carbon dioxide, more carbon dioxide is increased in the cell. Okay, these carbon dioxide diffused out. We have diffused in oxygen diffused into cell, carbon dioxide diffused out into bloodstream. This is the blood stream. Okay, the carbon dioxide comes outside. These carbon dioxide enters into blood capillaries, capillaries to lungs, lungs to what ma? Outside. So this is called expiration process. Okay, environmental air which is enters into lungs by the expiration. In the lungs, the oxygen which is diffused into blood through the blood capillaries process. These oxygen to reach to cell and tissue. In the whatever the oxygen to be diffused into cell. Okay, the cell utilize the oxygen by the oxidation process, release the carbon dioxide. Okay, these carbon dioxide diffuse out into blood. The blood to collect the carbon dioxide to send to the lungs. In the lungs, removal of carbon dioxide to outside. Okay, that is called by expiration process. It's called transport of gases. This is called transport of gases. Very important symbol. Simple definition. This is a lengthy definition. Now, simple definition one. Okay. For example, see the transport of gases. What is transport of gases from? Okay. Transport of gases from. Okay, now. So lungs. Transport of gases from lungs to tissue or cell. Transport of gases from lungs to tissue. That is oxygen. Okay, and tissue to lungs, that is carbon dioxide. Okay, so that is a process called transport of gases. Transport of gases from lungs to tissue, tissue to lungs. Transport of gases from lungs to tissue of oxygen, tissue to lungs of carbon dioxide is called what, ma'am? Transport of gases. This is the short definition. Short definition, very, very important. Okay, once again I repeat. So definition, what ma? Transport of gases from lungs to tissue. Okay, and tissue to lungs. So that is transport of gases. So transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue only. Transport of gases from lungs to tissue only. Transport of carbon dioxide from tissue to lungs only. So that is very, very important process of transport of gases. Now, so what is the process is takes place here? What is the process is takes place here? Once again I repeat. Once again I repeat. Already first year. First environmental air, the environmental oxygen enters into lungs. In the lungs, the oxygen diffusion to blood. This is a bloodstream. This is a bloodstream. The oxygen, that oxygen sent to tissue. In the tissue, oxygen diffusion to tissue. The tissue utilizes the carbon dioxide to release more by the oxidation process, release of more carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide diffused outside, and the carbon dioxide which is reached to cell to send to the cell, so to send to the lungs, to the bloodstream. This is the process called transport process. Here, the transport of gases, a very important thing. How many types of transport of gas are there? Mainly two types are there. Number one, oxygen transport. What one? Number one, oxygen transport. Number two, okay. Number two, what I mean, carbon dioxide transport. Number two, what we done? Number one, oxygen transport. Number two, carbon dioxide transport. Number one, oxygen transport. Number two, carbon dioxide transport. Okay, let us, we are going to discussing about the O2 transport. Today we are going to discussing about O2 transport, oxygen transport. Oxygen transport. Okay, so very important. May visible, audible? Ma.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Thank you, Bushra. Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, ma'am, very much. I think today your network is fine. So, right. O2 transport. What is O2 transport? What happened, ma'am? So, transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue or cell. Transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue only. Okay. O2 transport of what? Transport of oxygen. Okay. Transport of oxygen lungs to tissue only or cell only. Okay, so that is called O2 transport. That is called what, ma? O2 transport. But how the oxygen which is transport from lungs to tissue? Come on, tell me. So how the already yesterday we all discussed it. How the oxygen to transport the from lungs to tissue or cell because of here what happened in the blood RBC cells are there na in the RBC what ma in the RBC what beta which is there respiratory pigment in the RBC respiratory pigment is there that is what ma hemoglobin already told you yesterday. Come on, tell me hemoglobin which contains how many polypeptide chains? Hemoglobin which contains how many polypeptide chains?
4 polypeptide chains contains
What are those, ma?
alpha to beta. 2
2
alpha to
alpha
beta.
beta.
Very good, nice. Sushmita, tell me the beta polypeptide chain which contains how many amino acids?
146.
What, ma?
146.
Very good. 146. Please view. So this respiratory pigment is the hemoglobin. So the transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue, okay, that is by the responsible of hemoglobin is there. Hemoglobin is one of the vehicle of to transport the oxygen from lungs to tissue. Okay. So very important. Now, very important point. The hemoglobin binds with the hemoglobin binds with each hemoglobin to carries how many oxygens, ma? 4 oxygen molecules. Transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue. So by the what happened, ma? By the oxygen bind with the hemoglobin to be form of what happened, ma? Oxyhemoglobin, that is called oxygen transport. Once I repeat, one more definition. Transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue or cell. Okay, now. So by binding of what happened, ma? Hemoglobin. So to be form of what happened, ma? So to be form of what beta? Oxyhemoglobin. Okay, so this oxyhemoglobin, you know very well. So oxyhemoglobin. So this is called wasma oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin, right? So from what happened, ma? You know very well. See. Lungs. So here, where it is formed, hemoglobin bind with oxygen. Hemoglobin bind with oxygen where, ma? In lungs. It reach to blood stream through the blood, reach to tissue or cell, reach to cell. Okay, so what happened, ma? So the oxyhemoglobin reach to cell. What is the mechanism involving here? Okay, now before we are going to the process, see, very important. 100 ml of blood, 100 ml of blood, which contains how much, ma? 20 ml of oxygen. Very important. Okay, but ma? So that is very important. 100 ml of blood, that is 20 ml of oxygen. This is called artery blood. This is called what, ma? Artery blood. Okay, 100 ml of blood which contains 20 ml of oxygen, which contains, that is called artery blood. So, for example, 100 ml of blood which contains only 50 ml of oxygen is there. That is called venous blood. That is called what, ma? Venous blood or venous blood. Remembering one thing. Clear? So very important thing. Okay, now let us come into the point of see how the transport of oxygen So how the transport of oxygen takes place processly through the blood stream. Okay now, what is the process takes place here? Actually, remembering one thing, I would like to say whether okay the oxygen is bind with remembering one thing the oxygen is bind with the okay so oxygen is bind with hemoglobin in which condition oxygen is loosely bind remembering one thing the oxygen is bind with hemoglobin loosely bind with to be form of oxyhemoglobin in which condition okay when the oxygen level the oxygen that means PO2. Okay, PO2 partial oxygen pressure is high. Partial oxygen pressure is high. So where it is high? Where it is high? In the lungs, the oxygen pressure is high. Okay, now in that condition, the hemoglobin is loosely bind with the so oxygen to be formed oxyhemoglobin to be formed oxyhemoglobin remembering one thing. Whether that means hemoglobin saturation point to be takes place. Okay, now board is visible. Busra, Radhika, hello.
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay, nice.
Yes, sir,
Thank you very much,
visible.
ma. So you must be ready to respond quick, ma, please. Okay, right. What, ma? For example, see once I repeat, whether oxygen pressure is higher. That means rich oxygen is present. Where the rich oxygen is present, there hemoglobin is loosely bind. Okay now. Whether remembering one thing, whether PO2 partial oxygen pressure is lesser. In that condition, what happened ma? So the oxyhemoglobin is disassociated. That means Hb plus O2. Hb plus O2 should be formed, right? So this is a principle of very well. You must be concentrate this one. Okay now, right? So whether the oxygen pressure is high, the hemoglobin. So what ma bind with oxygen bind with oxygen. What happened ma to be form of oxyhemoglobin. Whether O2 pressure, partial oxygen pressure is lesser in that condition, the oxyhemoglobin to be disassociation takes place and to be formed hemoglobin and oxygen. These oxygen enters into tissue. For example, in the cells. So where these phenomena takes place in the cells. Okay, these phenomena takes place in the cells. This phenomena takes place in the lungs. Remembering one thing, once I repeat. Whether the oxygen pressure is higher, when the rich amount of the oxygen is there, where the rich amount of oxygen is present, actually in the lungs. In that condition, in the lungs, what happened? Hemoglobin is bind with oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin, right? Where the oxygen pressure is lower, where it is lower, so near of the cells. So in the cells there is no oxygen. That's why so there oxyhemoglobin dissociation takes place. Oxygen released. This oxygen enters into cell. The cells are utilized. The cells utilize the oxygen and to produce ATP. So this is the mechanism takes place. But how? What is the mechanism involving here? Transport of gases from. Okay. So whether remembering one thing, for example, this is the diagram. This is the diagram. Remember one thing. This is the blood. This is called what? Blood vessel. This is called blood vessel. Blood vessel. Okay. So what happened here? What happened here? See, this is the lungs. Okay. What ma? Lungs alveoli. This is called lungs alveoli. This is the lungs alveoli, right? Very, very important. What happened? In the alveoli, more oxygen is present. More oxygen is present. That means oxygen like that. Okay, more oxygen is present, right? So this oxygen which is diffused into which this oxygen diffused into bloodstream. This is called what, ma'am? Bloodstream. This one is called bloodstream. Remember, try to understand this mechanism. Whether the oxygen, that means what, ma'am? PO2 pressure is high. So that oxygen diffuses into bloodstream. Right? In the bloodstream, hydrogen hemoglobin is present. What, ma'am? Hydrogen hemoglobin is present, right? Hydrogen hemoglobin is present. So these hydrogen hemoglobin bind with oxygen bloodstream. These hydrogen during the capillaries, remember the capillaries, lungs of alveoli capillaries. These hydrogen hemoglobin is bind with oxygen. In which condition? O2 pressure is high. So loosely bind. Okay, to be formed. What, ma'am? So oxy hemoglobin. So here like that. So see here, oxyhemoglobin should be formed. This is called oxyhemoglobin and hydrogen plus should be formed. These hydrogen bind with bicarbonate. Okay, these oxyhemoglobin reach to tissue bloodstream. Right? Very, very important. So what happened? Here, that means hydrogen ions bind with bicarbonates to be form of H2CO3. H2CO3. That means carbonic acid should be formed. These carbonic acid should immediately what happened? Split immediately. So break down. Like one is carbon dioxide, one is H2O. One is carbon dioxide, one is water. Okay, now these carbon dioxide enters into what happened, ma'am? Very, very important. Into the lungs and remove from the lungs to outside. Remove from lungs to outside. That is a mechanism takes place in the lungs. Understood? Try to understand. Once and I repeat. What happened, ma? So already told you in the during the first time, I would like to give an already definition. What, ma? Environmental air enters into lungs. Environmental air, that means environmental oxygen enters into lungs. Okay, due to what, ma? PO2 pressure is high. PO2 pressure is high. So in that condition, the oxygen is bind with hemoglobin. So oxyhemoglobin, that means hydrogen hemoglobin to be form of oxyhemoglobin. And here hydrogen ions also free. These hydrogen ions bind with bicarbonates to be form of carbonic acid. So these carbonic are not stable. Immediately break down. Immediately dissociation takes place into carbon dioxide and water. These carbon dioxide enters into lungs and removed to outside. That is by the expiration process. This is expiration. This mechanism takes place in the what, ma? This mechanism takes place in where, ma? So in the lungs only. But now let us try to understand. Okay, come on, tell me. Anybody can say this mechanism? Anybody can say this mechanism? Come on, tell me. Chattara yarana? Tell me.
Can I?
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Start.
First, the atmospheric oxygen enters into our lungs.
Okay.
In the presence of high O2 pressure.
Okay.
Next, from the lungs to alveoli, the oxygen enters into our bloodstream.
Okay.
In the bloodstream, with the high pressure of O2 and the hemoglobin, it is
Okay.
formed the oxyhemoglobin.
Okay. Right. Next.
At the same time, with the oxyhemoglobin, it is H plus ion also formed.
Okay.
Next, the oxyhemoglobin given to cells or tissues. The H
Okay.
plus and CO2 ions are formed H2CO3 bicarbonate ions.
Okay.
These bicarbonate ions dissociate into CO2 and H2O.
Okay.
This CO2 again enters through lungs through the expiration process.
Okay. Very good. Good. Excellent answer. Excellent answer. Nice, Bushra. Thank you very much. Adiba, are you there? Adiba. Okay. Now, so this is a mechanism. I try to hope understand this. The mechanism takes place in this lungs. Now, I would like to go in tissue. In tissues, what is a tissue mechanism takes place? Okay. In tissue, this is a tissue. This is the cells. This is a blood stream. Okay. Okay, now understand? So you must be said this one cell. 1 minute. I would like to. Okay. What I can see here in this diagram. This is a blood vessel. Blood vessel. This is a blood. What happened in the lungs? In the tissue. This is the takes place in the tissue mark. This is that takes place in the. This is called tissue or cell. Or cell. Okay. This is the cells. What happened after metabolic activity? Just now I told you na, the oxygen which is reached to tissue through the blood stream. Okay, through the blood stream. What happened takes place here. Okay. For example, already what happened, ma'am? So here HbO2 reach to cell. HbO2 reach to cell. Okay. In this, what happened, ma'am? This immediately in the cell, PO2 is lesser. PO2 pressure. That means in the cells there is no oxygen. If the lesser oxygen should not bind with hemoglobin. Okay, that's why oxyhemoglobin required. This oxyhemoglobin compulsory. This association takes place immediately. So what happened here? Oxygen is formed. And hemoglobin should be formed. Oxygen should be formed. Oxygen should be formed and hemoglobin should be formed. This oxygen should be entered into. This oxygen should be enters into the cell. This is the cell. Na? This oxygen should be enters into the cell. Once I repeat, after metabolic activity, what happened? Ma? Huge amount of the carbon dioxide should be formed. Okay, lesser oxygen. Carbon dioxide is more, oxygen is lesser. That's why PO2 is lesser, oxygen is not there. So in that condition, the oxyhemoglobin immediately this association takes place. This association into oxygen and hemoglobin. This oxygen enters into diffused into cell. Diffused into cell. Okay now. So and this hemoglobin. Okay now. This hemoglobin bind with the hydrogen. Bind with the hydrogen to be formed. What ma? Hydrogen hemoglobin should be formed. Hydrogen what ma? Hydrogen hemoglobin should be formed. So here what happened now? Here remembering one thing, how to form of hydrogen here. Because of remembering one thing, how to form of hydrogen here. The cell to release the more in the after metabolic activity, In the cell, carbon dioxide is released more. These carbon dioxide diffused out into blood. So these carbon dioxide bind with water to be formed what ma? H2CO3 to be formed what ma? H2CO3, right? These H2CO3 immediately dissociation takes place. That means hydrogen and HCO3 minus, hydrogen plus and HCO3 minus. These hydrogen bind with hemoglobin, so to be form of hydrogen hemoglobin, and bicarbonates also form. These bicarbonates and hydrogen hemoglobin to again reach to what ma? Lungs. Reach to lungs through the blood. Okay, so this is a what happened now. So this phenomena takes place. This what happened now in the tissue, in the cells. So whereas lungs, the reverse reaction is reverse. Reaction is reverse. Okay, now very very important. What happened? For example, in the lungs, what happened now? In the lungs, what happened? Oxygen enters. Oxygen enters. Okay, now. So oxygen bind with the hydrogen hemoglobin to be formed what ma? To be formed what beta? Oxyhemoglobin should be formed. Plus hydrogen should be formed. So these hydrogen, what happened ma? Bind with the HCO3 minus to be formed H2CO3. Okay, to be formed. These H2CO3 immediately dissociation takes place. And CO2 plus and H2O2. These carbon dioxide enters into lungs. Okay, and what happened, ma'am? These bicarbonates are free in what happened, ma'am? Especially for in lungs. So sorry, these bicarbonates are free in the lungs blood to bind with hydrogen ions in the form of carbonic acid. This carbonic acid immediately dissociation takes place. Carbon dioxide released and water released. This carbon dioxide enters into lungs and removed outside by the expiration process. But so this hemoglobin reach to what ma? Tissue. Reach to tissue. Already told you na, reach to tissue. This oxyhemoglobin reach to tissue. But in the tissue, what happened? Oxyhemoglobin. This is the reaction in which condition takes place. POT high. That means partial oxygen pressure is higher. In that condition, the oxygen bind with oxyhemoglobin, loosely bind to the form of oxyhemoglobin reach to tissue. Okay now. But whereas in tissue and cells, what happened now? Here PO2 pressure is lower. There is no lower oxygen is present, lesser oxygen is present. That's why the cells must be required. The cells must be required. What happened now? These cells must be required oxygen. Oxygen. That's why these oxyhemoglobin, what we are taking from the lungs, this oxyhemoglobin, what happened now? So disassociation takes place to oxygen and hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is free. This oxygen enters into what happened now? So enters into cells. The cells are utilized. Then same reaction. The cells are utilized and utilize carbon dioxide. These carbon dioxide what happened now? Enters into bloodstream. So these carbon dioxide bind with water to be form of carbonic acid. These carbonic acid, remembering one thing, these carbonic acid, so immediately dissociation takes place. H plus, where in the tissue, not lungs, in the tissue, immediately H plus ions and bicarbonates ions also to be formed. H plus H3 minus. These H plus to bind with free hemoglobin to be form of hydrogen hemoglobin. Hemoglobin should not free. It is always bound with hydrogen. That's why it's called hydrogen hemoglobin. It reaches to lungs. Okay, it reaches to lungs. And same what happened? These bicarbonates also reach to lungs. What? Why? Because the more amount of the carbon dioxide from the carries the from tissue to lungs to the bicarbonates. Nearly 70 to 80% of carbon dioxide carries from tissue to lungs to the bicarbonates. Reach to lungs. Okay, already told you. Reach to lungs. Okay, now. Immediately, these bicarbonates are bind with hemoglobin. That means H plus ions, bicarbonic acid, carbonic acid and carbon dioxide, and what carbon dioxide comes outside, release into what happened? Release into lungs and release by removed from the lungs to outside. It's called what happened? By the inspiration, oxygen enters. By the expiration, carbon dioxide enters. This is called very we are discussing here. Okay, transport of oxygen. Okay, transport of oxygen in the lungs to tissue. Lungs is different and tissue is different, right? In the lungs, the reaction is straight, but in the tissue, the reaction is reverse. Okay, remembering one that these two mechanisms you must be right in this oxygen transport. And a very important topic is there in the oxygen transport, oxygen dissociation curve and Bohr effect. Oxygen dissociation curve and Bohr effect. Tomorrow we'll discussing about that. So before that, anybody can say. So what is the mechanism takes place in the tissue? Come on, tell me. Usha, tell me.
In tissue, first the oxyhemoglobin enters into the tissue.
Okay.
Then partial oxygen pressure is low. When oxyhemoglobin is dissociated into the oxygen and hemoglobin,
Okay.
this oxygen is given to the cells, and the
Okay.
hemoglobin is separated. Next, these cells, oxygen is utilized and the more amount of carbon dioxide is present. This carbon dioxide given by the lungs and H2O is combined to form a bicarbonate ions.
Okay.
These bicarbonate ions again dissociated to H plus and bicarbonic acid. This H plus is combined with the hemoglobin, which is released from the oxyhemoglobin. This hydrogen hemoglobin and the bicarbonic ions are released, given to the lungs, and it is released out by the process of expiration.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Excellent answer. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, nice, nice. Okay, thank you. So this is a mechanism of O2 transport. Tomorrow, very important, don't miss it. Very important topic, oxygen dissociation curve and Bohr effect we'll be discussing about. Thank you very much. Today's session is completed. So, and before that, you must be see in what happened YouTube. This video also uploaded in YouTube, and tomorrow and day after tomorrow, Monday onwards, I will directly going to YouTube live. Okay, now. So that's why all of you. So you must be coming the YouTube live directly. Okay, and you must be subscribe our channel. Okay, and share it, like it, comment it, and whatever, share to your friends, ma. So this is a request regarding of our Krishna sir. Of our channel is nearer to 1,000 subscriber, so must be required 1,000 subscriber the AdSense. That's why I hope all of you see YouTube again and again, and you write the notes also by seeing this diagram. Okay, na? Thank you very much for your lot of support to our channel. Thank you very much. So this is Krishna, HOD of Zoology, signing out.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.